in part due to the fact that traditional astrologers refer to Jupiter as the greater benefic and Saturn as the greater malefic. Jupiter is seen as this expansive, radiating energy. It's the gaseous planet in the solar system, which is larger than all of the other planets combined. It's seen to have a lot to do with our growth. Whereas Saturn, being this cold, boundary-ridden planet that represents the boundary of what we can see and what we can't, has a lot to do with time and limitations and structure. And so I want to challenge us, though, to think about how these two things really need to be integrated. They are not just good or bad, they are two necessary teaching energies. So Jupiter is what inspires us. It's how we can have ambition and the desire to grow and learn. But when we just have growth, infinite growth, that is the same way that the disease cancer functions. And that's where we need to integrate our Saturn nature. That's where we need to fine-tune and ask the how question. Jupiter asks why, and Saturn asks how. How can we make it practical? How do we work within the confines of time and our limitations as humans? And that can be an uncomfortable question to think about, thinking about our finitude. But that Saturn return around age 29 is when we have this wake-up call of, have we been achieving what we set out to? Have we been achieving those Jupiter goals? And if not, how can we do so practically? Now, of course, if we're living just within the question of, does it inspire me? That can be problematic. And if we're just living in the question of, is it practical? That can be problematic. So it's really about integrating the two sides of our nature. And so I think about a friend I had he was a trust fund child, and he grew up in the 60s and 70s and had all the money that you could buy, or that he could buy drugs with. And so he did a lot of drugs, he had a lot of sex, and he talks about how he had so many women and so many drugs and all these travel experiences. He saw the world, but it got to a point where nothing satiated him anymore, and he actually tumbled into addiction. And he was always seeking the new high, but he couldn't get it. And now it's funny because he lives the most humble lifestyle, and he meditates every day, and he gets satisfaction out of the smallest little things. And it just goes to show that flip between maybe the two extremes, and how we actually, though, need the contrast. So I think of Jupiter and Saturn as teaching planets, and their different parenting styles. So Jupiter might be the parent that was like, there's a keg in the basement, do whatever. And Saturn is the parenting style that was like, you're not going out until I see that you've done all of your homework. I need to see what your GPA currently is, and I need to see that you did your music lesson and your homework, and then maybe you can go out. And so we probably both know examples of the two styles, and as you can tell, they're not great in and of themselves. It's about integrating the two. So we need to have this discipline and this sense of limitation and restriction, but we also need to have that inspiration factor. And so I inspire you to look at your unique Jupiter and Saturn placements in your natal chart and think about how you are integrating the two of them, and think about how they play off of one another. And if you need help with that, I do offer personal consultations. But hopefully this helps you understand how these two energies are not at odds with one another, but they really need to be worked together. Thank you.